Heads up, this video is going to contain spoilers for episode 1 of Lanterns. If you haven't seen episode 1 of Lanterns yet, do not watch this video ever, okay? Thanks. It's me, Pup. How are you doing? I, for one, am feeling a little conflicted. When the trailer for Lanterns first dropped, I was kind of mourning the fact that we're not really getting the big Green Lantern adventure that I wanted it to be on a surface level. That said, what they were doing with the story felt by no means contradictory to the Green Lantern that I like. And I have been rooting for intensely stylized approaches rather than playing it safe. So while it definitely wasn't advertising what I wanted from a Green Lantern project, I was kind of rooting for it for that reason. Sure, surprise me. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is not the film I was expecting or hoping for it to be when I saw it, but to be honest, it's 10 times more memorable than anything I could have come up with. And now, purely for what it is one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. If you're new around here, my opinions are weird. But don't judge, okay? Don't prejudge. The pilot episode of Lanterns is basically everything that was advertised. It is Green Lantern through the lens of True Detective. And as 3C Films said, you know, a great way to build on existing source material is to, rather than just cannibalize that source material, seek other external influences. I completely agree with this. This can be used to really enrich the source material. But for me, the question ends up being, does Green Lantern benefit from the True Detective lens? Was True Detective the right source of inspiration for this? Or could it be that its inspiration has inhibited the source material? Having now seen the pilot, I'm still asking those same questions, to be honest. I can't say for sure that Green Lantern benefits from this tone and style, but at the same time, I don't yet feel ready to say that it's a detriment either. I really feel like we need to see the bigger picture because the pilot has really started things off very grounded, and we know that things are going to go a bit more cosmic with this show later on. So I don't think the show has yet shown its hand. And this first episode is very much dedicated to laying out the interpersonal character dynamics, and to explore the hidden threat in Rushville, Nebraska. And we've got a very interesting mashup of two superhero film tropes here. You've got the origin story for Jon Stewart, and you've got the deconstruction for Hal Jordan. You've got the beginning of this new superhero saga, but at the same time, it feels like Logan. It feels like an epilogue or a final chapter to Hal Jordan's story, because we are entering the story at the very end of his tenure as the Green Lantern. As far as like other superhero projects, the only thing that I can think of that has the real feeling that Lanterns does is Logan. The thing is, Logan works as well as it does because it is the culmination of an over a decade story of that version of Wolverine. Let's say we were rebooting Wolverine into the MCU, and we decided to begin his story with Logan. I mean, it'd be kind of like beginning a Batman story at The Dark Knight Returns. And when they did that, we all collectively asked, why would you do that? So the same question stands here. That said, we do have a whole season's worth of television to answer that question. But I think in terms of this, as the introduction of the Green Lantern to the DCU, I don't really see any difference between this and Batman v Superman in terms of how that film brought Batman in there. The point I can give to Lanterns is that it does at least put in a bit of work to show us what Hal Jordan was like before whatever it is that's traumatized him and changed him on a fundamental level. It also helps that Lanterns doesn't really go anywhere near as far as Batman v Superman did in regard to how this character stays within their own rules. Like, if BVS introduced us to Batman as kind of a killer, that is like the golden rule, that is like the line crossed. With Lanterns, Hal Jordan is acting out, but that by no means feels foreign or contradictory to his character because Hal Jordan is a maverick. He never does as he's told, he's not very cooperative. It's what makes his dynamic with the Green Lantern Corps so interesting. So while he is clearly acting out, we haven't outright broken any major fundamental rules of that character yet. And that's the thing, is across the board, these do feel like authentic portrayals of the characters, in a story that is completely befitting, even if it at first seems a little bit small potatoes for the Green Lantern. For one, having the show take place in a rural Nebraskan town. The Green Lantern is investigating an incident at a high school football game, What the hell does that require a lantern for? And I gotta say, I love the detective elements of this show. Hal Jordan breaking things down to Sheriff Kane, how no one person involved in the incident seems more upset than another. The people who have died at this game are aliens. So with Sheriff Kane's reluctant help, Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan chase down a suspect. We get to see Jon Stewart's understanding of evasive maneuvers in action, and that's really cool. Also, I love how the camera nearly hits the wall after Jon Stewart turns. Way to really play up his impressive control. And lo and behold, yeah, the suspect's an alien. And again, let me praise the cinematography here. How they managed to get all of the characters in frame via the shadows and reflections. The cinematography here is excellent. So we've got a cosmic conspiracy, but then, jump forward to 2026, Jon Stewart and Sheriff Kane both find the dead body of Hal Jordan at that same football field with a bullet wound in his head. It's an incredibly effective twist that sets up a secondary mystery. Where is the power ring? Where's it gone? Who shot Hal Jordan? And obviously with him in the same football field in Nebraska, this must be connected to the 2016 alien conspiracy incident. So this is a very engaging mystery story that does fit the Green Lantern very nicely. Yes, it is an earthbound mystery, but there are cosmic elements at play here, simply bubbling beneath the surface. That said, I do not think the show balances the gritty True Detective vibe with the Green Lantern elements very well. In terms of the text and the characterization and the overall story, it's all perfectly above board. But Lanterns in no way resembles a Green Lantern comic. And to me, it is the tone and the R rating that are getting in the way of that. There's a lot of things that you can keep here. There's a lot of that True Detective inspiration that is more than welcome. But for this pilot episode, I'm not sold on the R rating. I don't see anything here that actually justifies the R rating. Characters curse constantly to a point where it almost feels a little juvenile. It feels like the scriptwriter just discovered curse words.
Fuck you, shithole shifter. You're just a fucking.
I say I gotta fucking.
You all know the rules. Somebody in here ain't a real man. I am a man!
And my question is, what have we actually gained from that? How has Green Lantern been enriched by the character saying fuck every other sentence? I'm not some American who starts wilting when he hears the sound of a curse word, but what does this add? How has the source material benefit from this? Is the show going to benefit from having a major interpersonal character dynamic hinge on a sexual affair? And then I'm just kind of bummed out about the optics of the fact that in our first devoted Green Lantern project of the DCU, the first things we see done with the ring are counterfeit money, light a cigarette, and crack open a beer. It just feels like it's trying to prove something. But a reminder that me questioning the show here isn't necessarily me making a judgment of the show, because again, I do feel like we need that bigger picture, but simply based on this episode alone, I am not sold that an R rating was necessary, nor am I sold that it actually benefits the source material. And I think that's the main thing, is I think it is a mistake to have so much of the central DCU skewing towards R ratings. If you pick up your average Green Lantern comic, it is perfectly suitable for children, and a fine way to get kids into DC. I'm open to more adult comic book movie projects, but I think they should be relegated to either Elseworlds, or they should hinge on superhero characters that are either fundamentally adult in their premise, or will actually benefit from an R rating. Green Lantern isn't that. You've got Black Label DC comics with Green Lantern, but again, those are Black Label. This right here is mainline. So to have a mainline Green Lantern show all about Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, but have it be R-rated because the show insists on having the Lanterns be potty mouths and showing sex, means that tonally the show is inauthentic to the source material. Another personal gripe with the trailers was that they didn't show much, if any, of the Green Lanterns in their costumes. It's like, are we gonna be so stuck in the mature vibe that we're too pussy to even show the Green Lanterns wearing the costumes now? And I think this is my problem with it, is the characters are comic accurate and the story works perfectly fine, but we've dressed it up in this tone that makes the costume seem kind of silly, and dressed it up in this faux maturity. There's even a point where Hal Jordan is explaining his Green Lantern origin story just with extra fuck words in there, basically. My question is, why this coat of paint? You've got a well-cooked piece of meat here, why is the sauce that sauce, you know? You can have projects where the superhero character doesn't wear the costume much. That works very well for deconstructive stories, but I think my issue here is that we haven't had a constructive story for Hal Jordan. I do praise that the show did a good job at showing us what Hal Jordan was like throughout the different decades, but those are just in quick scenes. We've never seen any of him as the Green Lantern suited up in action, but it has been talked about. And I get that that's probably a budget thing. But at the same time, I can't help but be reminded of this Family Guy cutaway gag.
We've got 24 hours before those terrorists set off that bomb that makes an invisible explosion.
Should we take the helicopter?
No, let's walk. It's a nice day.
The point I'm getting at is we don't really have to sacrifice much of that True Grit vibe in order to showcase the Green Lantern in costume. Put it on, you pussy. The thing is, he's on duty. There's no reason why he shouldn't be wearing the costume here. He's just not wearing it because the show made an excuse.
When you're young and eager, so you wear a tie so people will take you seriously. You realize ties are a pain in the ass.
But again, you can dial it back, you can balance it. It could be that he wears the costume, but it's clearly not very well looked after. Which maybe we will get later on. Again, this is quite speculative. Meanwhile, Spider-Man Brand New Day proved that you could just have Spider-Man sitting around in his costume, and there's no detraction from the tone whatsoever because we understand that is the character's design. It doesn't matter that Spider-Man is vibrant and exciting. If he's in a bad mood, the costume does not disservice that. And I think if your central universe has to justify superheroes wearing costumes this badly, you might have a crap universe. And that is one big concern I have with the DCU so far. Put the fucking costumes on. I do like that the power ring, though, is at least a tool throughout the episode, and the sparing use of it is pretty good. But I feel like before seeing it get used in these quirky, silly little ways, they should have showcased some of the heroics. We hear about a massive bubble wrap shield, but again, we don't see it. Personally, if you ask me, I think what the show needs is balance, and I don't think episode 1 has struck that balance yet. Maybe they will later. I think the overall visual style is fantastic. I've praised the cinematography and filmmaking techniques, and I don't think any of that needs to change. I think you could showcase the dead body Hal Jordan that is integral to the mystery going forward on like a 12 rating. I'm sure you could do that. I'm sure you could do that scene exactly as it was presented, just minus the constant cursing. I am sure we could have had William Macon hate Jon Stewart's guts for any reason other than him fucking his wife. Again, I really cannot fault this episode in a vacuum for what it is. I am simply questioning, was it really right to reintroduce the general public via a true detective-style R-rated TV show? Personally, I think it was important to reintroduce people to the Green Lantern as he is presented in the source material. And I really don't mind if Jon Stewart is the face of the DCU's Green Lantern. That is the way I grew up with it. I grew up with the Justice League animated series. He was the Green Lantern in that. But I think before doing this deconstructivist story on Hal Jordan that feels like Logan, Green Lantern would really have benefit from a movie. And if you want to take external inspiration, I would say Top Gun meets Star Trek. Boom. There's your Green Lantern. Lots of Green Lantern in costume, constructs, cosmic adventures. Because the whole question with this show is, is this not a bit small potatoes for a Green Lantern? And the thing is, who fucking knows? Like, you know, like, if you're just basing it on this could just be what a Green Lantern does. And as I say, they have breadcrumbed it a bit. They have, you know, talked about the conquests that Hal Jordan's been on. They have shown that there was a time when he wore a costume. And, of course, we do have Guy Gardner's appearances throughout the DCU, showcasing a little of what a Lantern can do, albeit a very unconventional one. And that's the thing as well. Guy Gardner, as a character himself, is an inherent deconstruction of the Green Lantern. But that's the first Green Lantern we were introduced to in the DCU. So we've got all this deconstruction of a concept that I don't think we've properly constructed in the first place. And I feel like if we wanted to do this with Hal Jordan, if we wanted to do this deconstructive piece, we should have built him up first. Because I don't think this story here is a good reintroduction to any kind of Green Lantern. And I wouldn't say an Elseworld project has to be, but I think for the centralized DCU, I think it needs a better representation of what a Green Lantern story is like. Full disclosure, I really enjoyed this. Hal Jordan is a wonderfully petty protagonist. Jon Stewart being portrayed as someone with the patience of a saint after a frankly fucked up upbringing. Not only is that metal as fuck, that is someone that young boys could actually look up to. Just as we established with Jon Stewart being inspired by Hal Jordan, but you've denied the young boys any chance to be inspired by this because it's fucking R-rated. In your first scene, you demonstrated the value of a role model on a young man, and you made this fucking R-rated. What is wrong with you? And there are some really hard lines of dialogue, particularly from Hal Jordan.
Here's all you need to know. Why don't you do yourself a big favor and take a deep breath, Junior?
Him being such a shithouser as to play the same song on repeat at the bar with his own counterfeit money that he justifies as currency he willed into existence is really funny. This scene where Jon Stewart helps the kid from Spider-Noir to throw the ball straight, and how respectful Jon Stewart is towards Hal Jordan while acknowledging that he's kind of an asshole. Hal Jordan drops that sick "I'm Hal Jordan" Green Lantern bar on the alien, and Sheriff Kane immediately starts riffing on what a piece of shit he is. And I was like, you couldn't just let him have an aura moment, could you? You just couldn't afford him the sincerity, but then it outsmart me at my game here, because then Jon Stewart defends him. They do kind of spell out Hal Jordan's loneliness a little bit. Dialogue can be a little handholdy here and there.
Jordan doesn't care about anybody, and nobody cares about him.
And I think for this episode as well, the pacing was actually very strong. It was consistently entertaining, the mystery is very engaging, the interpersonal dynamics are incredibly engaging, and Hal Jordan is still also sympathetic. While he's clearly quite unreasonable and unkind and very caustic towards Jon Stewart, you can kind of also appreciate why he feels the way that he does. But at the same time, you can also appreciate why he's probably not the guy that should be wielding the ring now. You can see that Jon Stewart is the clear better option. I also love how the younger Hal is portrayed as well, almost kind of very golly G in a way, you know? There's a fun kind of weird science vibe when Jon Stewart taps into Hal Jordan's conscience. And while I didn't like the fact that we were making excuses to not put on the costume, I can't deny I really did enjoy the scene of Hal meeting fans at the taco stand. The world feels incredibly lived in this show. That's the thing, I cannot deny that everything here is genuinely really good. I just think the timing is wrong for this kind of story, and if they're going to do this kind of story now, they do just need to pare it down with a bit more of those surface level Green Lantern elements. I think fixing that could be just as simple as sticking Hal Jordan in the costume, even if it looks a bit unkempt to signify where his character's at. And maybe when Hal is talking about some of his Green Lantern adventures, actually showcase them, give us a visual accompaniment. I get that the show is working with the budget it has, I really do, but at the same time it can be cool to see a low budget tackle these bigger ideas and see the ingenuity that accommodates for that. Get Hal Jordan in a Green Lantern costume in a quarry, call it another planet, and have him fight a version of a killer that looks like he came from an 80s Japanese tokusatsu film. Now that is low budget filmmaking. Wouldn't fit in this show though, which is why I once again asked the question, was the ultra-mature True Detective vibe really the one to go for something like Green Lantern? I think the answer will come in the weeks ahead. For now, though, I really enjoyed this first episode. I really do want to stress that. It's weird because if you've been paying attention to what I've been saying here, it's like the greatest weaknesses of this pilot are also its greatest strengths. As a pilot, I genuinely thought this was great. I can't fault the character dynamics, and the cinematography is absolutely lovely. The bar scene is lit beautifully. Again, everything feels lived in. There's some really nice use of leading lines, and I thought it was really cool how Jon Stewart and Sheriff Kane's heightened awareness was conveyed by framing them on the end of the frame, making them singular in shots where they're having an otherwise fairly intimate conversation. There are genuinely wonderful techniques on display here, and if you're tired of superhero cinematic universe projects feeling very conveyor belty and you want some elevated filmmaking in there, Lanterns does have that in spades in its pilot episode. It plays around with different settings. It's like it's brilliant as a project on its own 2 feet, but it also feels like a step in the wrong direction, and I just don't know how to feel about the whole thing. So sorry this was a weird video, but to me this was a very weird piece of superhero media. And what's especially weird is I'm okay with thinking outside the box, especially when you've got the source for it, which Lanterns does. Spider-Noir is one of my favorite superhero projects of the year, and that is far from, what you would expect from a superhero project. But I think it just delivered more on being a Spider-Noir project than what Lanterns did on being a Green Lantern project, Maybe there is a balance, but at the same time, I just can't even say that Lanterns got anything wrong. It's just so strange. Nevertheless, I do feel compelled to tune in next week and the week after and just keep on going. Even if it's not, within the parameters of what I think a Green Lantern show should be, I'm certainly liking it. So, yeah. Okay, fine, video over. Patron time. Top investors. Manalza, KB, Twilord, Biotin, Sirius the Skeptic, and Mr. SP. KO Bennett, I finished the Sonic 1 video. Okay, I can't wait to see it, KO Bennett. Remember to write this off on your taxes. Dare Denny, Sad Goku, Ghostly Phantom, Neo Metal Pup, Council of Geeks, SSS06, Carl X, RT0, Marvinimation, Josh Strider, Ben Raven. Here we go, time to blow, here we go, fast like whoa, no, you can't keep making me say these things. He can't keep getting away with it! CL Wells, Press Play to Jason, and Joseph Tribble. Thank you, folks, so much for your generosity. And to all of you, my videos are the buffet. Go get yourself another plate. Okay, goodbye.